In an unspecified place on the African savannah, Keko's alone. An Italian man is transported in a car by a local resident. Keko is clearly uncomfortable because the car is making strange noises. Because Keko is particularly unlucky, the car breaks down, and the driver suggests that they continue on foot since it is a beautiful day. It then begins to rain, and as the two take refuge under a tree, Keko expresses his concern about frequent abductions by natives in this area, who in fact appear out of nowhere and capture the two. They are then taken to the village in front of the tribal chief, who is angry with him for entering his land without permission. Keko defends himself, saying that he is just passing through and does not intend to steal anything, mocking them under his breath in Italian for being poor. The tribal chief does not trust the white men, calling them half-hearted beings, so he asks Keko to tell him his life story before deciding whether he is worthy of living or not. Having no other choice, Keko sits down and begins the story. He is a 38-year-old man who has fulfilled all the expectations he had from his life, as he lives with his parents so as to avoid the responsibilities of independence and not pay rent and bills. Since childhood his dream was to get a permanent civil servant's position, as his father always took him to public offices, where most employees do not work and only waste time chatting and drinking coffee. As an adult, he has succeeded, and in fact works as an official in the provincial hunting and fishing office, where he stamps the licenses of hunters and fishermen. Most of the time Keko asks for a gift in exchange for his stamp, as he likes to exercise power over weak people, and instead of calling it bribery, he calls it education. Later Keko goes to lunch with the family of his girlfriend, Penelope, where he denigrates her for her poor cooking skills, as his mother Katerina has spoiled him with delicious and exquisite food. When Penelope's mother mentions marriage, Keko ignores her, as he wants to avoid any responsibility and live forever with his parents. Penelope's family accepts this treatment since Keko works as a civil servant, considered sacred by the Italian population. When Keko scores a goal that night playing soccer with friends, he lifts his shirt and reveals the words "I love you, Mom." The man is super spoiled. In fact, the mother listens to all her son's whims and does everything to make him happy. One day, however, everything changes. One morning, like many, Keko goes to work early, that is, almost noon, after which he goes for coffee with his colleagues and finds out from the news that the government has introduced a new reform that provides savings for public employees. Keko is not at all concerned about this since he knows that by law he can never lose his job as a public employee. However, because the man is not married, has no children, and is not an invalid, he is the only one among all his colleagues who has to be transferred away from home. As a last desperate attempt to avoid the transfer, Keko decides to take his fiancée to dinner and ask her to marry him. But just before he proposes he meets his boss, who informs him that he had to be married before the law went into effect, and that it is now too late. Dejected, Keko takes the disappointed fiancée away. The man leaves his city and arrives in Rome, where he calls his fiancée and discovers that he has been left since he has been transferred. While he is intent on thinking about what to do, he meets the elderly Senator Nicola Bonetto, his idol, who continually reminds him that his position as a civil servant is as precious as he can get. Summoned to the ministry by the ruthless manager Dr. Cironi, Keko is faced with a difficult choice: leave his job as a civil servant or keep it by being laid off and transferred far from home. Cironi also offers him a resignation check of €25,000, but Keko mocks her since the sum is paltry compared to the privileges public managers get, so he defies her and accepts the transfer anywhere. To persuade him to resign, Dr. Cironi has him transferred several times, to different locations, to increasingly unlikely and dangerous roles, but Keko settles in every place and resists everything, without accepting the increasingly tempting compensation offered by Cironi if he resigns. Minister Magnu meets Dr. Cironi and congratulates her on her work, as she has been able to get all the useless civil servants to resign, but discovers that one is still missing, namely Keko. Cironi, however, states that it is a matter of a few days. The woman then summons Keko to her office and offers him a new check, €50,000. The man continues to make fun of her, provoking the woman's anger, who leaves her office and yells at her employees to find the absolute ugliest place to send Keko. The man is transferred to the remote Svalbard archipelago in Norway to an Italian science base, tasked with defending researchers from polar bear attacks. Keko, used to the torrid Italian climate, feels uncomfortable from the first few minutes, and after a day's work there he is ready to give up his battle, but suddenly changes his mind when he is introduced to Dr. Valeria Nobili, the researcher he is to work with. Keko and Valeria begin exploring Norway together, with the woman teaching him about the love of animals and the environment. As time passes, it is clear that Keko is in love with Valeria, and the two enjoy being together. Cironi, meanwhile, is already celebrating her success with her colleagues, and she calls Keko in front of everyone for confirmation, but finds that she has failed this time as well since the man is super happy to be in Norway with Valeria. During the vacation, Valeria proposes to Keko to stay at her house since she is single, and the man super happy accepts. When they arrive in the city of Bergen, Keko notices the extreme cleanliness and civility of the place, which is very different from Italy. However, when they arrive at the woman's home, Keko discovers that Valeria has had 3 children by 3 different fathers and of 3 different nationalities. Despite the initial shock, Keko quickly acclimates to the extreme civility and strictness toward pro-environmental laws typical of Northern European countries, approaching the children and acting as a father figure. Despite all this, he has not yet managed to get close to Valeria, who continues to treat him as a friend, but one day the woman tires of Keko's lack of courage and kisses him herself. Meanwhile, a media case breaks out in Italy involving the public administration, and Keko's case is cited as an example of wasting public money, as the salary, travel allowances, and all other costs incurred in sending Keko to Norway turn out to be exorbitant. Minister Magnu imposes an ultimatum on Dr. Cironi: either she will succeed in getting Keko to resign immediately or she will be the one to pay the consequences. Cironi then flies to Norway and offers Keko a substantial check, alternatively, he will be transferred back to Italy. Keko again refuses the proposal, but this time he finds himself in trouble as he must choose between leaving his job or leaving Valeria and the children. Devastated by the freezing Norwegian winter, and following Senator Bonetto's advice, the man decides to return to Italy, taking Valeria and her children with him to keep his job. Cironi then relocates Keko to Calabria, a poor region of Italy, as the man has refused €70,000 in paychecks to accept dismissal. After much northern darkness, Keko finally sees the light of southern Italy again. As soon as he arrives on the scene, he is enlisted in the Forest Ranger Corps. Cironi has assigned him a dangerous task, namely to seize animals illegally held by mafia bosses. Keko, however, has a way with those kinds of people, and before long he becomes the king of the forestry, seizing tigers, penguins, and other exotic animals. After some time, together with Valeria, they establish an animal clinic, but it is short-lived because the local politicians are corrupt and do not intend to devote the funds to the poor animals, but put all the money in their own pockets. Valeria, tired of this treatment and how life works in Italy, counting also the racism towards her children, intends to return to Norway with her family. The woman then confronts Keko with a difficult choice: quit his job and return with her to Norway, or stay here alone. Keko, however, chooses to stay, although he loves the woman very much. As time passes, the man falls into depression, missing Valeria. One evening, while he is intent on drinking alone, Dr. Cironi decides to give it one last try. She gets him drunk and tries to get him to unwittingly sign the resignation document, but Keko receives a call from Senator Bonetto, who makes him realize what is going on and leads him to chase Cironi out of his house. At this point, Dr. Cironi, guilty of the waste of money caused by failing to get Keko to resign, is transferred, while the protagonist returns to work in the hunting and fishing office of his province in Puglia, now a metropolitan city. Soon after, however, Keko receives a call from Valeria, who informs him that she is in Africa and expecting a daughter of whom he is the father. And here we come to the events shown at the beginning of the film, in the village of the natives. Keko has arrived in Africa to join Valeria before she gives birth to their daughter, and the tribal chief, impressed by Keko's story, agrees to let him go. Keko arrives at the field hospital, which lacks medicines, even basic vaccinations, and embraces his daughter, whom he names Ines. Having become a father, Keko finally decides to resign and give up his much-loved position as a civil servant, provided Cironi gives him €50,000, and since the last check was for €30,000, Cironi angrily writes a second personal check, wishing Keko to spend it all on medicine. Keko accepts the advice and uses the money himself to buy vaccines and medicines for the hospital. The African doctors and nurses then make a thank you video for Cironi, who sees it just moments before she gets her job back in Rome and is moved, showing her staff that she is good too. Keko finally decides to continue helping Valeria as a savannah animal veterinarian and in humanitarian projects. Subscribe for more videos like this one, turn on notifications and leave a like to help grow the channel. Thanks for watching.